Welcome everyone to the first ever episode of PC Gaijin. So why did I choose that strange name? I will tell you later. This is the video where I introduce my old concept and idea. Alright, so first of all, welcome here. You're in my room right now. That's where I game and that's where I also sleep in my bed. So I will try to find a different setup later on, but for now, I was in a hurry. I wanted to do something. I wanted to do a video. Alright, so PC Gaijin. Why PC Gaijin? So to tell you really why I chose it, I need to give you a brief introduction about where I'm from, how I was raised with video games. I had a different experience than most of you, I believe, because I'm from Quebec City. Where is Quebec City? Well, it's in Canada. And usually, Canadian, you may think, oh, they all speak English, no problem. No, we have a French province, and it's called Quebec. In Quebec province, we only speak French. Everything is written in French. The newspaper are mostly in French, and usually, yeah, everything is fine. But one thing that is not in French, it was those games that were sold in Canada and America. They were all in English, and the manual inside as well. And that's why I believe that I have something else to share with you guys. Why do I collect right now is because I rediscovered those games that for me were all in English when I was a child, and now I rediscover it in a different way. I'm gonna give you an example. When you guys were maybe you are my age. I'm 26. So if you're like me and you had a Super Nintendo and you played Mario RPG, and then you got a PlayStation and got a Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, well, you discovered those games and you loved and fell in love with those stories. For me, I didn't speak English, so the stories I could not understand what was going on, tips and whatnot. Yeah, didn't understand. The games like that for elementary school, Pokemon, those games didn't get the plot. It helped that they had those TV shows on TV in French, so that I could grasp a little bit of the idea who was Ash and who were the Pokemons, and I chose mostly the Pokemons that I saw in the TV show because that's the one I could relate to, and I understood a bit their magic powers and whatnot. But most of the time, yeah, if I would play RPGs, my experience was different than yours because I had to use my brain. I had to use my imagination because I could not understand the text. So I had a cinematic introduction in Final Fantasy, and I could see the image and the sound and the music and whatnot, and I was trying to make sense of everything I would see without really understanding what was written. So when I come back to those games, when I collect all those games, if you can tell, there's a lot of RPGs in the back. Well, when I go back to those games, well, I rediscover a new world. It's like I have my memories from my childhood of the stories that I thought was the real one, right? Because that's the one I made up. And then I go in those games and, whoa, it's completely different. There's a beautiful plot to be discovered. And it's amazing how things are so different that like what I remember. So that's what I want to share on this YouTube at first. Maybe I will try to show you many games that I'm like, wow, those games were unplayable. I bought those games full price back in the days, thinking it was gonna be amazing because everybody was saying it was amazing in those magazines as well. They were like magazine like this one, PlayStation US magazine. I would check the scores because I couldn't understand what was written. I would check the pictures and I was like, oh, that looks like a great game. I'm gonna buy it. When is it gonna be released? Oh, release date. Nah. I would wait for it, buy it. Then I could not get far enough, and then I would have to trade those games. So most of the time, I never kept those games because, like for you guys, I know a lot of RPG players. What they loved is like, wow, I had 60 hours with this game. I want to keep my save file. I want to keep the disc. I have such great memories. For me, it was just my imagination. I didn't need the disc. It was all in here, and yeah, whatever. So I didn't keep those games, and then I had to buy them again. Now it's getting expensive. So yeah, I want to revisit those games. So not gonna do playthrough of RPGs, but just give you an idea of what I felt. Maybe do the introduction and see how it is different from what I remember and what it is, and also games that were unplayable, and show you how It's very different than it used to be. And also, I've got tons of Japanese games because I'm getting to the point where I want to talk why I chose this name. Because I lived in Japan for 2 years, and I felt the same way as I was when I was a child. Because, well, I may speak Japanese, but reading it, and it's a different story. Because reading Japanese is made of kanjis. I may know how to say the word, I may understand the word if it's told to me, but if I have to read it, it's a different story. So I had to use my imagination again. So when I bought new games, or also like games like Chrono Triggers, uh, and I never played this game when I was a child, Chrono Trigger. Even though I loved Akira Toriyama, who designed the characters, I don't know. This game fell through the cracks. Maybe I was too discouraged of all those RPGs, and I was well aware that was one of them. And yeah, so I bought the game because it's like $3 in Japan, and here it's like if you want a boxed version, it's like hundreds of dollars. And just the cartridge is like 50, $60. So I was like, yeah, why not? I'm gonna buy the Japanese version on Super NES, and yeah, I just went into it and tried to make a story with it. So that was very interesting as well. So I was like, wow, it's something that I feel like it might be the only place in the world where we get screwed with the video game regionalization. Um, and maybe we're the only people, my generation of people in Quebec, that like had to suffer with English text only and not understanding what was going on. So I felt like maybe sharing with you guys was great, and also I felt it was pretty unique as a perspective. So I decided to make a channel, and PC Gaijin. Well, it makes a lot of sense because I felt like a gaijin in Japan, like gaming, because all the games were in Japanese. All my childhood, I felt like the games were not meant for me. It's not only the language; it's also the culture behind it. I mean, I may understand now, even now, I may understand like references, like maybe they talk about humorous and whatnot, but sometimes I don't get the joke. Borderland, for example, the new Borderland right now, it's mostly Australian humor. It's already difficult for me to understand American, British humor, but now Australian humor? No, 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 I don't get it. Like American, I got used to it with Family Guy and whatnot. It's still, there's a lot of actors and references that in Family Guy I don't get. And it's fine. I mean, I understand that. But I'm used to it. But that's the feeling I always have. It's always, I'm a stranger to anything cultural or video game related. And it doesn't feel frustrating though. It's just it feels weird because I never I feel a part of the community, but at the same time it feels like wow, there's a big gap. And nowadays we have French games. Like there's a lot that have been passed, and now like Pokemon games, we have the French version from France, and that's another issue. French culture is completely different as Quebec's culture. Like our accent, the way we speak, the vocabulary we use, the actors, the artists, and all the singers. So if you compare, like I will give you an example, maybe for American and British. The example is very simple. Uh, if you hear humor from England, you may understand language, but the words and also the references that they do to their own culture is very different. So if you watch a sitcom and it's written for the British audience, maybe American are not gonna enjoy it as much, and they won't feel as much as a part of the whole thing, of the whole uh, series. So that's how I feel. So even like when we have French games here, I just don't buy it anymore. I feel more inside the North American culture now because I grew up with it with video games. So I always play my games in English. The only exception for that is Super Smash Brothers because it's just too funny. It's just like all the words they use for Pokemons and whatnot. It cracks me up because that's another thing. You would think that, oh yeah, Japanese to English, okay, they had to translate it. But no, they had to also translate it to a French language, and I'm pretty sure they have a German version of Pokemons and whatnot. and like the names of the Pokemons, they're just so funny in French that like no, I cannot take this game seriously. And like there's so many now. I had to learn them all in English, like 700 and whatnot. That no, I'm not gonna start again and try to learn how to say Charizard in French, even though it's my main language, which it should be easy. But I don't know. So see, that's the thing I'm talking about. Gaijin in Japanese means stranger. Gaijin. Gai means out of. Jin is a person. So an outsider kind of thing, right? And that's how I always felt with video game. But again, I'm not complaining. I'm not saying it's negative. I'm just saying that maybe it gave me it made me the man I am today. I traveled a lot. I tried to absorb as much culture as possible. I love to go to France, to Russia. I studied in Russia. I studied international politics. I want to be I want to work as a gaiko kind of Japanese, the diplomat. And I lived in Japan as well. So I love this. So maybe it's a part of the thing. I never felt like very at home anyway. So I just felt like I'm craving for cultural stuff from abroad. So that's why the PC part, it's a reference to PC Gaijin. So PC Gaijin is a game for the PC Engine. So it was already a word game on the name of the console, and this is the mascot of the console. In America, it was monks. And PC Gaijin, well, what it means, Gaijin in Japanese means prehistorical human. So obviously, I'm not a prehistorical human. I use Gaijin. So PC Gaijin, it's also another word game because I love the PC Engine. So here's some examples of what we might take a look at future episode. All right. First of all, well, obviously those Pokemon games, I will show you a few parts that I got stuck. Like if I can remember, I will try to get to those parts and get stuck and show you why it was so hard. Like if you don't understand English or the tips, might be hard. Even like just going into menus and understanding what the thing means. I mean, like strength, it would be hard for me to pronounce it, but I was like, okay, strength, I would use this. And then or things like that would raise your agility, and it would say your agility rose. I was like, rose, what do you mean a rose? Like I knew that rose in English meant it's a flower, like it's the same word in French, rose man. So I was like, why are they talking about flowers? And like didn't make sense to me. Alright, so we might revisit those Pokemon games from back in the days. Also, Metal Gear Solid. That's a good one. Because, okay, how do you play RPGs or games like this? Like, you need to understand what's going on, right? You need to progress. And sometimes they tell you, like, directly, like, in Metal Gear Solid, that's a good example. When you talk to the colonel, they will tell you, well, maybe you should look behind the box to know what's Meryl phone number or phone number to call her like during the game. Yeah, so they tell you that in English. It's very obvious. It's like simple. As long as you have the case itself, you know her number. And back in the day, the internet was not as well spread, so yeah, you needed the case. So if you rent Metal Gear Solid, you were pretty much screwed because you only had a plastic case and didn't have the thing. But for me, it was a different level of problem. I had the game, but I didn't have the knowledge of English. So they were like, yeah, try looking behind the case. I'm like, blah, 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 blah. What's her phone number? Where can I find it? And so you could say, oh, well, okay, internet. Well, GameFAQ and whatnot, it was not well spread. Internet was not as developed. And even so, it was mostly in English. And the French walkthrough, well, they would come later because the games in France, well, they would be released maybe even a year or 2 years later. Like consoles, they would go, like in Europe, they would be released way later. So if you buy the game on release like I did, you were screwed. You'll need the internet. You didn't have any information. So some people might say, "Oh, well, there's guides for that, strategy guides. So go for it." Same deal. Those guides, like this one, well, they are in English. It's the official one, but it's in English. So again, same deal. I could not understand. So I could use a dictionary, but no, that didn't fly well. You could say, oh, Nintendo Power, or the one I showed you earlier, the PlayStation US magazine. They have walkthrough in those. Same deal, English as well. So for French magazines, we didn't have many at all, in fact. And if we had some, like the games were not released yet, so I could not go through. So the only way I could get through a game, like that's the only way I was able to go through those like gates where like I cannot go further because I really need to call someone in the game and I need to know what to do and it tells me but I don't understand. The only way to go further, well, it was the good old, like you know, in elementary school we always had 15-minute breaks and whatnot, and I would go talk with my friends, and then like we would play the same game, and we would be very passionate about it, and we would give each other tricks. Some clever guy, like understood that you need to like, oh my god, I figured it out. It's behind the case. Just enter this code. Like it felt so clever. That wasn't me, but like at that point I was like, oh shit, yeah, let's go. And I couldn't be able to wait till I go back home and then finally go through and continue the mission with Metal Gear Solid. Like I would have trouble fighting Psycho Mantis. It's very hard boss. I don't know if you've played Metal Gear Solid. It's a hard boss when you're young. I was like maybe 10-ish. So it was scary, kind of. So it was very hard because he knew where you were and whatnot. And then the caller would say, "Oh, try changing your controller to the second port of your PlayStation." And for me, it was like blah 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 blah. Again, I couldn't get the tips. I mean, that didn't work for me. Then again, at the recess, somebody clever, or maybe it's his dad. Yeah, some people had dads that were better in English than others, and yeah, my dad is good in English, but most of the time I was with my mother when I was playing this game. So my mother doesn't speak to this day English, and so I didn't have help. But some people had parents that could help, and they would bring those tips. It's like, oh yeah, you just need to switch your controller port. You cannot read your mind anymore, and then you can shoot it, and the boss is easy this way. So those were the very good moment I have. So I can share that at later points. I remember also like being super excited about StarCraft with my friend. Metal Gear, like I said, Pokemon was a great one. Another great game that I just rediscovered, Shenmue on the Dreamcast. Dreamcast was also a console that I was waiting for a long while. And Shenmue, quickly, it's in Japan, and it's kind of funny because I didn't understand what was going on, and I felt like a stranger in Japan at that point. It was like, you go around and try to find tips, and it's very scripted. So you need to know what you want, and that you need to understand what are the tips, or you're not gonna progress. Or you have to speak to everyone, and just like do that all the time because the person that you're talking to may not have something to tell you right now. But then once you get that clue, he will have something to tell you, and then so you have to tries and error. And I remember just the ambience of the game, like it blew my mind. I didn't go far in this game because obviously it was way too difficult. But then I had such great memories that when I started living in Japan and I felt like I was in a city that looked like it, like the architecture and whatnot, it felt very Shenmue-ish. I went to the store and bought it in Japanese. And once again, I tried the game and I had the same nostalgia. This time I understood a bit more Japanese and they speak in it, so you don't need to read. So I just listened to what he was saying. So I was able to go further, and also that there were some places where I had to figure out kanjis because it was like go to Yamamoto-san's house. I was like, oh, Yamamoto, the kanji for Yamamoto is this one. I know that in Japanese house you have you don't have really addresses or numbers on the doors. You have their name. So I was looking for the kanjis, the signs for Yamamoto. So that felt great. That felt like exploration. But again, I didn't go very far because some tips were a bit too difficult, and some guys were talking with a different accent and with dialects, more yakuza and whatnot. It was very difficult. So I gave up, waiting for me to get a copy, an American copy. So far, I'm on the second disc, but my memory card just blew, so I will have to redo it again. But I'm fine with it. It's such a great game. So yeah, I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about me. Why did I think it was pertinent to have a different YouTube channel for retro gaming, and share my memories of gaming as a foreign speaker. And I think it might be interesting. I hope you enjoy it. I will try speaking less time next time. I will try to play with a video game, whatnot. Like right now, it was just my room. My bed is not made yet. All right, but next time, yes, there's going to be video game shootage, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you next time.